Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben. I'm joined here by Brian. We're here to talk about episode 8 of Survivor 41. And we are here to say goodbye to Tiffany after a bit of a weird tribal council and kind of a meandering episode. But yeah, we'll get to all the details. What are your overall thoughts on that episode there, Brian?
It probably felt like one of the more normal episodes of Survivor this season. I don't know what that says necessarily about the season, although, of course, we've covered it at length. Our thoughts on there. But, yeah, I think that it was okay. I feel like Heather being almost red herringed or like shoehorned rather would be a better word for it into the narrative at this late a point is odd, and that more than anything made me think that maybe Heather was going to get voted off because we hadn't seen anything from her. But it was Tiffany. Very sad to see Tiffany go. I've enjoyed her post where it looks like it was going to be her, Voce. Everything from then on has been pretty great with her, so sad to see Tiffany go.
Yeah, I mean, just from like a bird's eye view editing analysis perspective, usually when you see this kind of a visibility spike, it can often be because it's the boot episode of the person. But that wasn't the case. This was, I think, Heather's breakout episode, in that she was shown an average amount. And in previous episodes, she had not been shown at all, comically almost, to how little she had been shown. So her just kind of appearing on the show in a normal way was a visibility spike for her.
Yeah, I had to look up the Ghost Island cast because it reminded me of Desiree. All of a sudden showing up in force for one episode. I was like, uh-oh, this could be bad.
Yeah.
But no, we get to keep Heather, and maybe she might be someone on the chopping block heading forward, which means we'll actually get to see her. Maybe. Not always the case.
Yeah, let's, I guess we could kind of open up from the start of the episode here. We don't get too much before we head into the reward challenge. It's a lot of kind of, rehashing the stuff from last week's episode at the Tribal Council. And it's a lot of the Yasa 3 kind of starting their, what I thought was legitimate scrambling, but because of this like cloud of paranoia over the Majority Alliance, they seem to interpret it as non or illegitimate scrambling that was just kind of a facade. I don't know what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, no, I thought that was interesting because I feel like oftentimes after a big move is made by the Minority Alliance, I think back to like Second Chance with the Witches Coven idling out Savage. It kind of makes the Majority Alliance like reevaluate their standing within the game, and kind of usually opens up the game for the Minority Alliance a little bit. But this was like the opposite. Like the Minority Alliance pulled off something, and then they were like, all right, it's been real. It was fun while it lasted.
I mean, to be fair, it didn't actually, like, in the instance of Cambodia and the Witches Coven, it didn't really open up a lot for them. Like, Cass and Sierra went out pretty quick, and like Wentworth kind of was able to sneak in and coast to the end.
How dare you forget Wigglesworth getting booted for no apparent reason? For whatever reason, Fishback was zeroed in. I think it may have been Wigglesworth was close to Joe, and Joe won immunity, and Steven had a huge hard-on for getting Joe out, so he had to transfer it over. So, and then Sierra got idled out. She could have been there for the long haul had Jeremy not idled her out.
That's fair. So yeah, okay. I guess like in theory, it was sort of opened up a little bit. But I mean, I guess we kind of are yeah, given the preview that we get at the end of this episode, we kind of might be seeing that headed forward.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Tiffany just kind of
Heather
falling into the
smashed the
castle.
alliance out of
Well,
nowhere.
we could argue. We can get into details now. I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but um, yeah, yeah, I was surprised, I guess, by the Yasa 3 doing this.
Yeah.
It's, I think it. I at the very least appreciate that it seems like more of this cast than average are like playing kind of selfishly, and
Right.
not just like being like, oh well, screw me, I guess I'm just gonna lay over and die, right? And they're at least trying to be the one person from the Minority Alliance that ends up at the end right before the Majority Alliance turns on themselves. That seems like the spot that you actually want to be.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Last person hanging on.
Yeah.
And I guess, Xander played very hard this episode. I'll give him credit for that. Yeah, he didn't play in the immunity challenge, but he attempted a lot of social maneuvering. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Do you think that saved him, or do you think, it was they always just wanted Tiff out with like the chance of Xander playing his idol? Because I feel like if you're going to split the votes to flush an idol, you put the majority of the votes on the person with the idol. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, we talked last week about them also doing the exact same thing, where they put the majority of the votes on Sydney instead of Evie when they presumed that Evie had the idol. And yeah, it's just...
Does this cast just not understand how to split votes?
Well, it's something that I feel like it's pretty established as a Survivor strategy for almost 15 years now, if not about 15 years. So you'd think that kind of understand the basics of like, if you have a supermajority, right, and you have an uneven split, you put the majority of your sub-majority on the person with the idol, so that if they call your bluff, they leave with the idol, and if they don't, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because they're accomplishing nothing by what they're doing at all.
Yeah, because
like
now
you may as well
Xander
not
still
even
has his
split the
idol.
votes.
Xander called their bluff.
Yeah,
and he still has the idol headed in the next week. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's less than ideal gameplay. It's the food. It's the lack of food. They're not getting the like. I remember there's something about splitting the votes. I just can't remember how to do it.
All right. Well, I guess let's get on to this reward challenge, which like kind of matters in a little bit. Like there's pieces of it that matter, and we get our first of like 3 separate instances of Jeff talking to the camera. Where he's like, I'm going to place this advantage on the bench here in the sit-out bench. Make sure to pay attention to the sit-out bench to see if the person finds the advantage.
Yeah, always jarring, Ben. I cannot get used to it. It feels like, especially like when he was at the challenge and did it like live, it feels like in Skyrim or Fallout when you talk to an NPC and it snaps the camera onto them. That's the vibe I get. I hope someone makes an edit of that,
Yeah. Isn't there like there's like a it's like an NPC meme or like it wasn't Skyrim. What was it? I don't know if it was a different it wasn't like Morrowind or anything. I can't remember what the game was, but there's like a meme of like putting the music over the back of like a real life scenario where somebody's just like acting like an NPC. It's like you can make one of those cuts.
It would fit really well because it's always just like so abrupt. You're just like, oh Jesus, okay.
Yeah.
Already described him as the Blair Witch Project of now going for NPCs. Jeff, this is Jeff's least favorite podcast.
Yeah, I mean, look,
and there's a lot.
At the very least, hopefully it encourages them to not do it again.
Oh, they're going to do it harder, if anything.
Well, I mean, they're definitely doing it again for 42 because there is no feedback in between the 2 seasons. So the earliest we're going to see any kind of change is 43. So, yeah, I don't love it. I also think this idea of like, oh, we're gonna put an advantage on the sit-out bench is like, that.
We dodged a bullet. We don't need another advantage here.
Yeah. Xander has 2 toys already. He doesn't need a third toy.
And it's also just like it was kind of interesting in Game Changers, I guess. Like, although it led to, as we've established, my probably least favorite moment in the history
Yeah.
of Survivor. So I don't think we need this ever again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we don't need any more legacy advantages. We don't need. We didn't have somebody who was competing in the challenge go over to the sit-out bench and like steal the advantage from underneath Xander's nose either.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was your take, I guess, on the one interesting thing about the challenge, which was Erica got the bad rock again, makes a big fuss about it. Jeff helps make a big fuss about it for TV. And then Xander's like, actually, I would like to trade spots with Erica and forgo my chance at reward.
I mean, I like it from Xander's point of view because reward challenges, I mean, yeah, they do matter in this season, especially because they're literally starving. But like, Xander's boned here in the game. He has an idol, so he has like one free pass that he knows, but like past that, he needs to be doing whatever he can to try to integrate himself. And he laid it out quite well for us, saying that like I'd rather be with the losers. They're more emotional. They're more apt to potentially make deals with you when they're in that state. So like, I almost felt like that was a winner confessional. You know, like if he wins, that's something that's going to be played at the reunion. You know, that reminded me of like, you know, a Boston Rob style. Like here's how people work in this game. You know.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think Xander had a few of those moments in this episode as well.
Yeah, the episode title, he's killing it.
Yeah, the Betraydar, and then the whole Betraydar scene where he's like doing debugging on the social dynamics of the vote decision. So yeah, a lot of good moments there.
We're gonna find out Xander's like a big genius after this. Like,
yeah,
he just played up his surfer bro persona.
I do think that there is. I think that I would compare him to somebody like a Devin Freitas kind of like, and this I think kind of when we talk about like meta of Survivor and like people on this season in particular being very meta about the game. I think there's an expectation with certain like casting archetypes that they'll behave a certain way or they'll like have a certain level of intelligence. And I think that Devin was somebody that was able to like really kind of take advantage of that intentionally, and like Fabio as well as another one.
Yep, he's the one who I was like thinking of comparing Xander to.
Yeah, where like if you just kind of seem like you are a dumb archetype, you can get away with people thinking you're like way stupider than you are. And so like even if you're just like average to above average intelligence, you're going to be able to like outfox people just on the basis of them underestimating you.
I mean, we saw it very hard last episode, and now it continues. Like even after that, they're still just like, eh.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seemed like everybody except for like Shan was very like willing to just allow Xander to get in and like kind of just write him off as a potential threat. But yeah, I liked the thought process, and I don't really, like you said, the reward challenges matter to an extent in that like having food, especially in a season that's very food scarce, is definitely a leg up. But like it's more important that you're able to socially integrate yourself, because you can't really rely on winning immunity challenges at this point. And so like the additional food is not going to be like the difference maker when you're in, especially in a spot like Xander is in, where he kind of needs to make some drastic changes to his social positioning.
Yeah, you're not winning out from the final 10 on immunities. Yeah. Like it's not gonna happen. So people always either think they can do it or use it as like an excuse of like, oh, if we don't get him now, we'll never get him. It's like
Right.
there are 10 people left. I'm pretty sure we'll get him at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Like obviously there is, especially with the recent changes to Survivor, where you have the final four, you know, fire making, and you also have like idols being re-hidden over and over again, so you could have like a Ben Rebergen situation. Like there is like kind of a worry at like the final eight, maybe is where I would start to be like, okay, like this is when we need to get somebody out who
Yeah.
could run it to the end. But like 11 is like kind of, you know, it's kind of a wishy-washy position to be like, okay, this person has to go now, otherwise we're screwed.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So you want to talk about Papaya Gate?
Well, first I want to give a shout out to Evie for
Oh, correct. Yeah, of
making
course.
the puzzle
Yeah.
at home. You got to do that. Come on, you're gonna go on Survivor. Go out there, look at all the puzzles that you can, conceivably make, and just test them because they use a lot of these same puzzles over and over.
I mean, you know, definitely impressive, but also like I knew how to do this puzzle because like I've seen that Survivor. It's not a
Right.
complicated puzzle. It's like complicated in the way that it's like a trick puzzle, where like you know it plays with your expectations of like the spatial awareness. So like as soon as you know the trick, like it's not hard to understand how it works. So like I feel like anybody should know that like it's kind of there's two 3x2s and there's two 4x1s. You put the two 4x1s like this, and then you put the two 3x2s like kind of perpendicular to each other like that. That's it.
That's it. Easy.
Easy.
So anyone out there, that's if you let me talk right to the camera. Future survivors.
I don't know if they're going to use
Yeah.
this puzzle again after that.
No, not after that. It's like
Yeah.
Spencer ruined that 4-piece puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
is
just
probably done.
you can't use puzzles that are only difficult because there's a trick to them
Right.
more than once. Like it's just
Right.
not. It's just stupid. It's just a bad idea from a production perspective. Like any puzzle that's like insanely easy to memorize how to do it is just not good to do more than once.
Yeah, but then you have to come up with the puzzles. That's
Yeah,
hard.
then you have to put in work,
Yeah.
right? You have to like actually make unique puzzles every time for every challenge.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. To hire people to do that and everything, like what a waste.
They probably had that puzzle in a like trailer on the island already, and they just spray painted it new colors.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Just not a joke.
No, not a joke at all. That's probably what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, though, like, do they care? Like, do they
No.
care if the puzzles are gameable to this extent? Like,
No.
why does it matter? Right?
Right.
Because, like, it's a reward challenge. It's a team reward challenge. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. They get this moment where, like, they can be like, this is how you play the game. You study game tape of previous seasons and, you know, learn how to do random trick puzzles.
Right. I think they like it when people do this because they liked it when David from Millennials versus Gen X was like, oh, I 3D print all the Survivor puzzles at home, and then I'm like kind of a little bit above average at them on the show.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of silly, but it's all right.
I want to give Evie their due,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, good on Evie for like like learning how to do the puzzle. I just think that it's silly from a production perspective.
Yeah.
to have the game or the challenges be this gameable this easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So also grilled cheese didn't get a big pop. Jeff was like, "Yo, get grilled cheese," and they were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I actually started uncontrollably laughing when he announced that the reward was grilled cheese. That's how stupid the reward is.
Hey, this is Survivor on a budget, y'all.
Yeah. They're like, we have some extra grilled cheese from the crew lunch, and we want to do this random reward challenge that we threw together from pieces from 3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
So
The players were also like, "Oh, this is better than I thought. This bread's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's pretty thick."
I'll say straight up, any reward where you get like no like obvious source of protein
Yep.
is a bad reward. Straight up.
Yes. Yes. I don't know. I was at least like, maybe there's like chicken or bacon in the grilled cheese. Nope.
It
Just carbs and
looked like barely any cheese actually.
yeah, it looks just like a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
Left Ricard so hungry that he had to eat papaya to
Yeah.
satiate himself, which is tragic.
I mean, to be fair, if you gave me the choice of a grilled cheese and chips on Survivor versus a papaya, I'd probably just take the papaya, honestly.
Yeah,
I feel like the
that's
papaya
the
gives me more
move.
useful nutrients. Yeah.
It definitely would have like good sugars.
Yeah.
It might even taste better depending on how your palate is. Like,
Hmm.
you know, there's but the actually I was gonna I'll say the papaya has a much smaller chance of destroying your intestines after not eating for 16 days also, so that might be
Yep.
the move too.
Hmm. Yep. No, you're not gonna get like Joe Del Campo off of papaya for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, I gotta disagree with Ricard here. We've known not to do this from the actions of players at least since Janu in Survivor Palau did it. It maybe even goes back further than that. Like, this is an established thing that you don't eat the camp food when you come back from the reward. And he said that he's never seen or heard this. I know we're big nerds, Ben, but like, come on.
Yeah. No, this is like definitely in the wrong. Like,
Right.
like the only way you could have made it worse was like offering to like baby bird some of the like puffed up chips into their mouths or
Yeah.
something like that. Like, it's
Let's
just
pull. Yeah,
very
pull a Nalia. Would you like this mint that I've been
yeah. You
sucking
like this
on?
mint exactly? That's what I was thinking of. That's pretty much the only way you could do it worse. Um,
See, this is good when we just throw out these incredibly obscure references to scare all the people who started watching Survivor when it like came out over the summer, like binged it and didn't like watch the old seasons. Like,
yeah,
they're like, okay, I have no idea what these two fucking guys are talking about now. They're
yeah.
referencing a season from 2002 right now, or maybe
Good season though.
2003.
It's your fault
Oh,
in
really
one
good
case.
season.
It's a great season.
Yeah, yeah, it's really
And
good.
Nalia, offering the mint is one of the more memorable moments from the season, in my opinion. Just out of absurdity.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely bad. And we have another scene where it just seems like the show is just like smacking us over the head of like, oh, Shan and Ricard are gonna have this is gonna be an issue at some point.
Yes. Yeah. This is bad. This is getting tense. Completely undermining the spiel we went on, saying that they're going to be bonded at the hip, going to be back to back, fighting off
Yeah.
hordes of other players. Like, this is bad, Ben.
Yeah, this is also the first episode in like over a month where I'm starting to think that Shan might not win the season. So,
Agreed. And if we can talk about the preview for the next episode, I kind of feel like they're potentially building a "this is why Shan loses" narrative, and this is because she's a control freak.
yeah,
And it's bad. You can't be a control freak on Survivor.
yeah.
You can. You just have to hide it really well.
Sure. You have to be like a little bit less neurotic about it and a little bit less like overbearing about it. But yeah, I think that my biggest complaint from this episode would just be that there wasn't like a lot of like narrative cohesion with kind of what was going on throughout the episode. But there were a few kind of overarching themes, and one of the overarching theme definitely was this kind of like brewing control war between Deshawn and Shan. where Shan is like very happy to be the person calling the shots, and she thinks that she's doing a good job of like calling the shots in an amicable way where it's not like obvious that she's calling the shots, but for everybody else, it definitely is.
Yes.
And I think that especially the former Luvus probably feel a little bit odd about Shan coming in, where Luvu had such a strong numerical advantage, and it's just like, oh, we're just going to let Shan tell us what to do now.
No, I agree. I think they're finally getting to play Survivor after hanging out on a camping trip for the first half of the game, and they're being dictated to, and they don't enjoy it. And I can say, like, if it was just Sean, if it was just Ricard being like, yeah, Shan's a control freak and it gets on my nerves, I could be like, okay, maybe like it's not the case. Maybe they are just feeling this, but the fact that it's two people probably means it's a discussion around camp.
And Heather also is going to bring it up in one of her 2 confessionals this episode.
A Star is Born.
Yeah, where she talks about how she doesn't appreciate Shan trying to control everything. So yeah, a lot of screen time this episode is kind of dedicated to setting up potential either downfall arc or potential like losing finalist arc here for Shan. But yeah, we'll see where it kind of goes. It definitely seems like next episode we're going to get a lot more potentially on that front. But the previews can be misleading.
Yeah, they certainly can. Although I feel like last week's preview was like spoiling that Evie won the challenge because it had the scene with Xander and Tiff being like, oh, it could be me, it could be you. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Anything else in between the first immunity challenge and that?
Yeah, I mean, also on that front as well. In the preview, what they showed like 7 different names being brought up. One of which was also Heather. So definitely took a lot of the wind out of that. Heather versus Evie showdown. Like, okay, obviously Evie won because we saw a clip that we haven't seen yet in the episode of them considering voting out Heather. So definitely a case of Survivor kind of spoiling itself here.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
Let's
yeah,
move on.
we have another dilemma to get to. This season feels like it's just so uncomfortable in its own skin. It can never just let it be itself. It has to like throw shit in at every like moment. Yeah,
and the rules continue to be very wishy-washy and unclear here. To the point where the players are even like asking, like, okay, so, but like, how many players, Chef? And he's like, hey, we're negotiating. You gotta negotiate with me.
Let's make a deal.
Yeah,
make a deal. Where's Drew when you need him? He's the master negotiator. Could have used him here.
There were a lot of San Juan del Sur kind of vibes between this and between Xander giving up the opportunity for the reward to sit out on purpose. Like there's a lot of weird kind of San Juan del Sur parallels there.
Yeah, hopefully it finishes as strong as that season.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what to say about this. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's whatever. So I guess we'll just say like Xander, Ricard, Shan, and Nasir sat out. And the challenge lasted. It was maybe one of the only times the challenge was aired in real time. Because Jeff said it was just under 4 minutes. And I would not be surprised if the challenge took 4 minutes to air. So
it's kind of like some Big Brother challenges or comps where there's like really short comps that end up getting dragged on longer than they actually took to film. But yeah,
Survivor should have added in some confessionals where they're like, in this challenge, I have to stand on my tippy toes and hold this block on my head. Have like each person say that once would have dragged it out enough.
Yep. Yeah, I did think it was interesting. Of the four people who sat out, three of them were the three people with idols. I don't think that was a coincidence.
I mean, probably not. They're like worst case.
Yeah.
I can play this.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think maybe, I think you kind of, if you're Jeff, you have to scale the amount of people you ask to sit out based off of the number of people who have idols in the game.
Yeah.
Because, you're basically asking one person to put themselves in danger, and that was Ricard.
Yeah.
So.
I did really enjoy the, like, let's say 7, and they're like 7 players. Like, I'm negotiating. Chad's like 5.
Yeah.
Jeff is like, you got a deal. Yeah. He's way more forgiving than the guy on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
the best I can offer you is 8.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We actually want 9 players to sit out. We're gonna make this a 1v1 right from the start.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wasn't it in Second Chance? It's like if one of you sit out, you get a giant shelter built, and like most of them sat out, and then this one it's like, I guess it's maybe if there's the rock thing, and then you're not sure who's gonna do it, more people would have done it. Right. So Jeff wanted this to be like a public thing.
I think that would have been more interesting than this, where it's like, there's 11 of you. I'm going to give you all rocks. If 5 of you volunteer to sit out, you get this big bag of rice. Mm-hmm. But if less than 5 of you sit out, then the people who sat out got nothing.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
It was very funny, too. I was like, here's a bag of rice. And I was like, oh, he's going to give them rice for the rest of the game. And he's like, for 3 days. I'm like, Jesus, all right. That's rough.
Enough rice for the next hour and a half.
Yep. It's like, okay, thanks, Jeff. Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, congratulations, Evie.
Yeah.
Big, huge week for challenges for Evie, honestly.
Oh, of course, yeah. But like as we saw at the Tribal Council, not a lot of actual strategic value to be gained from this immunity win, because I don't think I saw Evie basically at all between the challenge and the Tribal Council.
Yeah, Evie has to know that they were very much on the chopping block. Yeah. Since no one spoke to them, like, that has to suck.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad when you win immunity and then you still don't get included in the conversations.
It's like, okay, we're just cutting you out of this until we can get you.
Yeah. Just not even giving you an inch at that point.
Yeah.
And then we get, I guess, the most interesting sequence, I would say, probably, which is Shan kind of trying to control the vote very poorly.
Yeah, this goes very bad. Sean's mad at Shan. Like, I think honestly at this point, I don't know about you, Ben, but like, if people are pushing back, it is the final 10. Like, we're pretty. I know the season's shorter, but we're far away from the end in terms of rounds of players to be eliminated. Like, I think Shan should have just been like, okay, like, I'll listen to you this round. Like, it doesn't affect me going, forward. I don't need to be the person seen as calling the shots right now, because the person who's seen as calling the shots right now has a much higher chance of getting voted off.
Yeah, and I think also, too, I think it's bad for, at least from our perspective, it's kind of difficult to know exactly where all the pieces lie, but I think it's bad from Deshaun and Danny's perspective to vote out Nasir at this point.
Yeah, it's not even like a great thing.
Yeah, I think that, because Nasir's probably more loyal to the two of them than anyone else at this point, at least from what we've seen, but it's kind of hard to tell, because we don't get a ton of, like, we get, like, kind of the strategic thoughts of, like, 5 players, maybe. So it's really hard to know 100%. And also, I think that Shan could easily pitch this to Xander as like her saving him, right, and gain some kind of
Yeah.
like additional loyalty. So yeah,
Yeah, and it's also just really fumbled where Shan's like, "Oh, I told Xander your name to Nasir, and I told Xander your name to Heather." I don't. Do you have to say that, or can you just be like, Xander, like pitched your name? I just said yes. Like we're voting Xander off. Like, just so you know, he's like coming for you, but like don't worry about it. Like we got your back.
yeah. There's like three better ways to deal with that. It's like you could do that. You could say nothing, right? Uh, or you could send somebody else to have that bad conversation for you, and you don't have to be like the person. Like you don't have to be the information like handler in every conversation at all times.
But Shan does, and that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is a problem. Um, I definitely think it's less of a problem than it is appearing, because I don't know. I think the relationship handling is way more of a problem than the control freakiness. Where I think that she overestimates kind of her ability uh, to like make people want to work with her, I guess. And we kind of see this as well at Child Council, where she like answers a question to Jeff, or like interjects kind of a point who like directed to Jeff about how she's handling Deshaun, and you can see Deshaun is like doesn't really have much of a poker face. Is like not happy with the way that she's kind of framing it. Where like she's basically like is describing out loud like how she's sating Deshaun's needs while actually not really caring about them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's way worse than just like having to be in control all the time. It's just like the way that she's handling it.
Oh man, you want to get to tribal council?
Sure. I guess we can. From the perspective of the beach, we have the initial plan, which is Xander with a Tiffany backup, and then the plan that Deshaun and Danny pitch, which is Nasir with a Tiffany backup, and then that becomes the pitch to Xander as Heather as the fake out vote when Nasir was originally the fake out vote. And so that's kind of where we were headed in tribal council.
Yeah, and
pretty quiet tribal council, right?
Yeah,
I got to the vote.
Ben, I literally turned to Jenny and said, "I really appreciate that they didn't do the whispering thing this episode right as Heather was interrupting Jeff." And I was like, "Oh shit, here we go again." It's like that meme, just like, "Oh my god!" Like I always just get so mad. Like you guys had so much time at camp to do this. Like, if Survivor doesn't implement a sit in your seat rule at some point, like I don't know, like I don't think we need to do this every tribal council. Like not every tribal council is the most dramatic tribal council of all time.
Yeah, no, 100%. And we see that it literally has next to no, if not no, influence on what happens in the vote. Like you could argue maybe it's going to have some influence on what happens, going forward. But like, this was so pointless.
So pointless. The only thing it did was spike Heather's game for no reason.
Well, that's kind of. I'm actually curious what your thoughts are, because I have a conspiracy theory as to what happened here.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to be the case, but we'll see. I think that Deshaun put Heather up to this.
Oh, all right. That would be interesting.
And there's a couple of reasons why I think this. One, it makes literally no sense, and we got no indication from Heather this would be something that she would do. If anything, I feel like she would do this against Shan, because that's kind of the vibes that she was giving off in her confessional. Uh, Two, I don't really see any reason why she wouldn't get voted out here if there wasn't
Right.
some discussion that happened with Deshaun and Shan that wasn't really easily caught on camera of like, Deshaun kind of like putting his foot down as to not voting out Heather, because this seems like a pretty easy call otherwise. And then I think this was probably mostly a ploy to get Nasir's idol to be flushed, if anything. And I don't know if uh, Heather is caring to make that kind of a move. As much as somebody like Danny or Deshaun, who have vocalized in this episode that they want Nasir out. And then on top of that, I don't think that Deshaun would react the way he did if he didn't have like a vested interest at all.
Right. Hey, I mean, that makes more sense than, what was portrayed on the show. And, well, it's impossible for me to say what Heather wants out of this game because Survivor won't show us what Heather wants out of this game. It did seem very strange and very messy. And, hey, maybe Heather is just drama incarnate, in which case fun. But it doesn't make a lick of sense to me why she so, aggressively targeted Nasir and caused this paranoia. So I'm buying into this conspiracy theory because it's fun. Nothing else.
Yeah.
It's a fun idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like I don't know what Heather sees her path forward in the game as. Like I don't know who she thinks she's in with. Like I assume she just thinks that she's in with Luvu, but if she thinks she's in with Luvu, then why target Nasir or like even try to flush his idol? But, like maybe she thinks she has like a 4 with Erica, Danny, and Deshaun.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a 3 with Danny and Deshaun. She feels like it's just so hard to speculate on her, Ben, because they don't show us anything.
Yeah,
like to the point where I was like, well, clearly she's not important then. Like she's not going to factor into the narrative in any way. But then we have her doing this, and it's like, well, this is tough to diagnose. We don't understand. She's like someone they just inserted into an episode out of nowhere.
Yeah, Tiffany said in her confessional she was hoping a member of the crew would help her to try to survive during the vote. And she got that, right?
She got
Heather stood up. Heather, who was definitely a member of the crew because she's definitely not a player from what we've seen so far.
I haven't seen her.
And tried to save Tiffany, presumably.
Yeah, so good on. She's up there with Brett from Samoa in terms of characters interjected to make the narrative more interesting.
But like, it didn't even make it more interesting. It just made it more muddled.
Well, I almost don't expect anything to be like concise or make sense on Survivor anymore.
Yeah.
I'm always just like waiting for like, okay, just tell me who they voted for, Jeff. Like you guys have long since given up on presenting a coherent narrative in favor of, wow, that was surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
People don't believe it, but there was a time where we understood why people got voted off of Survivor. And it was still a great show.
Right, yeah. You could still have an occasional blindside. You didn't, it just didn't have to be every single vote was manufactured in a way where it was confusing on purpose to the audience or like a fake surprise.
They went away from blindsiding the player and that being the big moment to blindsiding the audience is the big moment.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to go back and try to figure out when that shift came into play because it really was not always like this.
No, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe probably like early 30s, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I even feel like because I haven't rewatched a lot of the 30s because they just happened in the weren't that good, for being honest. But I rewatched Game Changers. I
Mhm.
still feel like in Game Changers they were explaining like people's rationale as to who they were voting for.
Sure.
You know, the drama was like, which way is a player gonna go when they're
Mhm.
faced with like multiple options? You know,
That's fair. Yeah.
so
Yeah. So maybe HHH.
here, yeah, I think because a lot of that was just like, does Ben have an idol? Yes.
Mhm.
Wow. Who's who's the like second person that's
Yeah.
getting votes? Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this is Jeff Probst's least favorite podcast because all we do is complain about the dumb shit that Survivor does now. Still very happy to cover it. Love Survivor. Very much enjoy looking forward to it all day on Wednesday. Just wish it would go back to being better. And maybe I'm just old now, Ben. Maybe I'm just a curmudgeon who, like, you know, only the classics are good and all the new stuff sucks. But
Yeah. I mean,
who's to
there are
say?
good moments, right? I think that even in this episode, there were good moments, and there's like interesting things to talk about from like a survivor social strategy perspective. It's just from an overarching narrative perspective. I just had no. There was it was impossible to follow what was going on in this episode in terms of like what everybody wanted and what like the path forward is for people. Like we said, we have no idea where Heather's head is at, and she played in heavily with this episode in Tribal
Right.
Council. We have no idea where Erica's head is at. We have no idea where Nasir's head is at. We have, some kind of idea where people like Liana's head is at, but even then, Liana was like, you know, was in the episode a lot, but wasn't really like giving like useful information forward.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
they've pretty much like given Liana like the only thing they've given her like, I love Survivor. I want to be like the good survivors, but they're
yeah.
not like showing us anything other than she has ambitions to be like Sandra Poverty. You know?
Yeah, no, I think at this point it's like Shan, Deshaun, and Xander are like the only perspectives we're really getting,
Yeah, yeah,
and then like Danny as well. But a lot of Danny's perspective is like filtered through Deshaun, and we get mostly Deshaun's thoughts. Like it's kind of like 75-25 there. So
yeah.
like I feel like outside of those three players, we really don't have any sort of like long-term understanding what people's strategic goals are.
No, totally
So
agree.
yeah.
So yeah, no one played their shot in the dark today. So that's interesting. When do you think it goes back to being a 1 in 6 shot? Like in terms of there's only like 6 envelopes. Do you think they take an envelope away each round? Because then it's like
But
less than a 1 in 6 or more than a 1 in 6, right? If
well,
they go
yeah,
bad.
I think. Well, see, this is why the whole way that it's set up is kind of confusing. Because at the start of the season, I had thought that it worked where if multiple people played it, you would not replace the envelope. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, oh well, it's just really kind of simulating a dice roll. So why shouldn't multiple people be able to
To be
to
safe
win
from
it?
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I changed my mind to. But then at the merge,
Yeah.
we moved 12 envelopes with two successes or safes,
Yeah, and then Jeff's like,
which,
same odds. Then it's like, not really though, because depending on when you pull, you have different
well,
odds
it is the same odds still technically.
from the
Uh,
first one. If there's only 12
well,
envelopes, right?
there, I believe, is so like in the six people tribes when there was less than six people, I still think there was six envelopes with one
Okay.
safe.
Right,
And so
right.
similarly here, I think there are 12 envelopes with two safe. And I think that the way they're doing it is just to make sure that there isn't some like wild crazy scenario where like five or six people all play their shot in the dark and all happen to roll the 1 in 6.
Right.
So they can just cap it at two people are safe. But the odds are technically the same.
Okay. Even like, I guess it doesn't matter because it's like the odds are. We'll put it this way. So back in Big Brother, 18. they had a very similar twist called the round trip ticket, and there was an envelope for each player in a hidden room. The first player to find it picked an envelope. It ended up being the envelope. So from then on, everyone had a 0% chance of picking the right envelope. But I guess like that's too like semantic and like hard to like parse out. Like to say it's just easier to be like, it's 1 in 12, no matter what.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. Well, and that was like a complaint that I had at the time with the round trip ticket, where there was no actual advantage to being the first one to find the room.
No, it just happened to work.
Yeah,
out.
it just happened. It happened to work out in Paul's favor, even though it didn't actually end up mattering.
Right.
But yeah, and that was so stupid, regardless. And even stupider.
You didn't like 7 straight people being like, "Oh, here I'm gonna open an envelope." Nope, didn't have it.
Yeah.
Those were the vibes that I got last episode from Sydney. It gave me a hard whiplash flashback to BB-18.
The Frank Boot and BB-18 primarily.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, the way the odds work out, it's the same. It doesn't matter. It's because, like you said, without perfect information as to which envelope it is, like you either get the 1 in 6 or the 2 out of 12 the first time you draw it, or somebody draws it, and you have the odds of them not drawing the safe one. It's like the way that the math works out is the same.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So.
See, this is why you're the math guy. I'm the
This is how I use my math degree, right? Just, making sure that people aren't upset at weird probability shit that Survivor is doing for twists that seemingly don't end up actually mattering.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, I guess anything else we could talk about here?
No, I mean, I feel like I already gave Tiff a send-off at the beginning, but really enjoyed Tiff on this season. Very fun. CBS reality, casting, nailing it with Tiffs. Keep the Tiffany's coming, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about Ricard multiple times during the tribal council, very ham-fistedly trying to trick Xander into flushing his idol.
Yeah, that was especially bad because it's like, please play your idol. It's like, bro, you do not have my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever listen to you?
Yeah, it's big like Amanda and HBV telling Parvati. But even
so
worse, because at least Amanda and Parvati had a pre-existing relationship.
Yeah, like like the reason like Natalie Anderson can tell John to play his idol and then he does is because they have a relationship. Like, you don't have a relationship with Xander. Like, so ridiculous. But that is big Amanda energy.
Yeah. It's just like so. Like, I still want to give Xander a little bit of credit for calling the bluff and not playing it.
You gotta have balls to do it.
It does take balls to not play your idol, but that was so telegraphed. Like, come on.
Yeah. Because I was talking to Jenny and she was like, "Well, what would you do?" And it's like, obviously, like, I can't say because like a lot of what I would do would be based on my like reads of people and all that. But like, if anything could give me a tip off that it's not me, it's someone like multiple times telling me to play the idol.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not good.
No, not at all. Ricard's had a rough season, from the backlash on Twitter to the just maybe not being that great of a player.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that Ricard made way more mistakes. I think that Shan gets a lot of heat because she's arguably one of the better players in the season and in one of the better positions to win. But I would argue pretty strongly that Ricard is a way worse player than Shan and has made way more mistakes and is in a way worse position to potentially win.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So. Yeah. Anything else? We're almost at an hour, actually. I thought
we somehow
would be a pretty short
very
one.
naturally went to an hour.
Yeah.
We've trained ourselves so well.
Yeah. we did go on a number of tangents.
We did.
Talked about multiple shows that weren't Survivor.
And speaking of, we got announcement dates for our future shows. We got
Yep.
Big Brother Celebrity Edition coming. What was it, the 2nd of February? So catch us on the Have Not Room, another podcast very similar to this we do with our friend Chad, where we talk about Big Brother. I feel like if you like us talking about Survivor, you'll probably like us talking about Big Brother. Is that fair to say, Ben?
Yeah, same kind of vibes where we're complaining about the issues with modern Big Brother as well.
Yeah, I mean, we basically just complain a lot. That's like our thing.
Yeah, we're definitely if you like hearing people complain about reality TV, you come to the right place.
Yes, where the old man yells at cloud meme incarnate about reality television shows.
Yep.
Yeah. Other than that, we have some fun plans that we're gonna hopefully get in motion soon. Where we'll be streaming like on our Twitch channel, covering very obscure, hopefully out of copyright reality television shows in a mystery science theater type way, where we're there chilling, shitting on bad reality television. I think it will be a lot of fun. Obviously, this is all like in the future when we have time to do it. We don't have a set schedule, but if that sounds like a good time to you, make sure you subscribe to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/wickegeverything.
Yeah, for sure. This is a project that we've been talking about for quite a while. We started it in a podcast format, and the first episode that we recorded was lost to technical glitches.
Yes, my laptop just destroyed it, and
so we're changing up the format, and we're gonna do what the kids call React Andy shit on Twitch.
Yeah, big shout out to all the famous Twitch streamers for making this like content a thing in a way where I feel like we won't get slapped by copyright. So
yeah, and like as Brian said, a lot of these shows that we're gonna be covering are very old, or not necessarily very old, but like old for in reality TV standards, and generally very questionably of questionable quality.
Yeah. We'll put it this way. Most of the ones are probably uploaded to YouTube for like 5 or more years at this point. And I think at that point, like if they haven't been taken off of YouTube, the person who owns the copyright doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, 100%. So we have a list. We have dozens of reality shows that we are very excited to talk about.
Yes.
And so stay tuned for more information on that.
Yes.
Otherwise, you want to shout out your social media?
Sure, yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter at @theFakeBMar. It's BMARR. This channel obviously is better radio, but what I do most of the time is Wicked Good Sports video almost every day of the week. If you like sports content, I don't complain quite as much, although I did just make a rant video about Aaron Rodgers, and my favorite team is the Miami Dolphins, as you can see on my hat. So there is an adequate amount of complaining. So if that's what you're looking for, check that channel out.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think most of the complaining that you've done on Wicked Good Sports has been, probably more valid than any of the complaining we've done on reality TV podcasts. So, because it's like actual real life stuff for the most part. Definitely check that out. And then, obviously you can check out the main channel at WG Everything on Twitter. At Wicked Good Everything, as Brian mentioned, on Twitch, also Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and the main YouTube channel, Wicked Good Everything. You can follow me on Twitter at Ben Sharon. Otherwise, we'll be back next week to talk about episode 9 of Survivor 41. This has been the Blindsiders. Be sure to subscribe on all the podcasting platforms you use, and also this Better Radio channel on YouTube. Until then, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.